Greetings, Patrick here, 8 Questions with, and it's the first show of the week. And here we are at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock in the UK. And we will be talking with actress Victoria Chambers today. Um, our other guest, Derek Barr, had a family emergency, and he was not able to make it today. But our thoughts and prayers are with Derek, and we're going to go ahead and try to reschedule him at a later date. But we still got Victoria. So, that looks, Victoria is, to me, sounds like victorious. Uh, so,
Hopefully.
victorious.
Yeah.
That's right. Our good friend Matt just came in. He is from the UK. Pugwell 316 in the house. My good friend Betty J is here saying hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in. It's a beautiful day here in Michigan. What's your weather like over right now? It's I know it's dark in the UK. Well, it's not quite dark in the UK. You still got
Not quite. No, not quite. It's well, to be fair, it's one of those. So the way I kind of I look at weather now. So we lived in Canada a few years ago, and we lived in Lethbridge, Alberta. And one of my friends when we moved there said, with Lethbridge weather, if you don't like it, just wait 15 minutes. And it feels a lot like since we've come back to the UK, it is a case of if you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes. Because this morning it was lovely and sunny and just glorious sunshine, and then within about 15 minutes it was absolutely smashing it down. So it's changeable at the minute. You think June, oh, it's summer, it should be really nice. And I was having this conversation with my friend earlier, going, where is summer? So,
um, we do that, but we're doing that with winter. We used to have really pretty decent winters here, but now our winters have become really, really mild. It's still cold, but we don't get the rain and the snow like we used to. So it's sort of weird. And Betty's saying it's raining. It's raining in Florida. Heavy rain on every day. Every day it rains in Florida. Every day. I was there once for 20 days. It rained every single day. About the
yeah.
same. Yeah.
See,
Uh,
people over here think, oh, Florida, it's so sunny, it's so lovely. But that's interesting to hear that it doesn't stop rain. Actually, to be fair, that's here at the minute. It just doesn't seem to stop raining. So
I'm sitting on the beach in Sarasota, and I'm sitting on the beach. It's a sunny day. I look to the right of me. It is absolutely not a cloud in the sky. It is beautiful, stunning. You look to the left, and it looks like the world's going to end. It's all black. It is black from eye to eye, and it is coming at you. And it's just like you're looking to the right sky, you're looking to the left end of the world, and then it comes right over you, and you get drenched for 15 minutes, and then then it goes away.
yep.
It's yeah. Now, have you guys had having a mild summer?
So far, I would say we haven't really had. Well, I mean, that's a lie. We've had like 2 days of summer so far. It was really, really lovely just over a week ago, and so I think because we had May half term for the kids for school, not last week but the week before. And actually, for pretty much the whole week, it was just glorious weather, and it was quite warm. And then as soon as we kind of come back, kids go back to school, I go back to, kind of working. It's again, it's raining, and I'm there messaging my friend in the morning, going, "Hi, just wanted to drop in and say hello. It's raining again."
Yeah, it's got to be weird. Now and then last year, I think it was you were going through drought. I think Europe and the UK were going through drought, massive drought.
It was crazy last year. So um yeah, we had like a period of where it was warm, but it wasn't, overly hot. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was like this 2 or 3 days where it was just like 40 degrees, and we were all just dying and thinking, oh my God, how would we cope? I genuinely do not know. I used to be pretty good with the heat, and I think as I've got older, I'm just don't handle it so good anymore. But I think 30 degrees is my max. Anything over that, I'm dead.
So someone says, yeah, so we're gonna make you up and make you into a creature feature. It better be damn cold outside because I'm not gonna wear that heavy ass mask. But really, you would. if they came up there and said, "Well, would you give it a go? Would you give it a go, Victoria? We're gonna go ahead and put this mask on you. Give it a go. You do it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Make it May. I want to be a leprechaun.
Yeah, do you know what I think I would? I've thought about because obviously, kind of starting out in acting, I'm sat thinking about all the things that I could kind of come up against, and I think I'm a fairly resilient person, and there's not very many things that kind of freak me out. But I've watched a couple of videos. Speaking of masks, I've watched a couple of videos where they're doing kind of full like the castings of the prosthetics and things of people, and they've just got the two straws sticking out of the nose, and I'm sat there
Mhm.
thinking, I'm not entirely sure I could control my anxiety to sit there long enough to have that done. I think that's probably the only thing that terrifies me.
I think if you get in that situation, I think you just really, really, for one thing, I think it's really important. And it sounds funny, I'm going to say it, but it's actually important. I think it's really important. Like if you know that you're going to be heading to the makeup chair, and you know you're going to be there for a while, is try to do, try to hydrate yourself like 3 or 4 hours before there. Try to get that water in there, and that way you go to the restroom. And so, like when you go in the chair, you're not moving. Like,
Yeah,
you want to make sure you want to sit there, because the less you move, the faster they'll go, but yeah, I've seen that too. And I've always been impressed with anybody who can sit there
yeah.
with a mask on there. I think it would be fine for me. I would have no problem with it myself, as long as I have it's almost like I could breathe, because
I think it's just the being covered and feeling like, I don't know, just the not being able to see, like having everything and like only being able to breathe through your nose, and just having to the sitting there. I could totally do the sitting there and like having them 8 hours of makeup. That's fine. But yeah, I think that's just the thought of having that on my face and not being able to see anything.
I think when I hear the actors, they'll sit there and they'll say that. They'll sit there and say, "Yeah, I was in the chair for 8 hours," and then they get up and then they do maybe like a 30 minutes worth of a shoot. It's like you get all made up and you're going to shoot for an hour. Like, okay, we're going to go ahead and get you up there and get that scene done or whatever, and you're in there for an hour, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, that's a wrap for the day, and they go like, yeah, but I was ready to go. Can I do some more pages? Can't we?
I've
Can we
just
do?
sat
Can we
here
do?
for eight
Yeah.
hours and like, but if you're paying me for the day, then like go for it.
Yeah, can
Yeah.
we find a couple more people for me to kill before I take this off? Um,
Right? Yeah, it seems like such a lot, but I mean, it's dedication, isn't it? It's dedication to the craft, to the art. I mean, the things that the actors that I've seen, them putting themselves through for kind of for the art is amazing, and it really takes some commitment.
it really does. So I want to go back a little bit with you. I want to go back because you have a very interesting background. Now you're based in Cambridge, Cambridge, right?
Yeah.
In the UK. Now, I know Matt's gonna look at me like, yeah, dude, really? But how far is Cambridge from London?
About 50 minutes on the train.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah,
you're
it's
not far
so
away.
I'm based at Whitton, so RAF Whitton, which because my husband's in the army, as is my son, and so yeah, I'm based in RAF Whitton, which is kind of in between St Ives and Huntingdon, which is just about half an hour north of Cambridge. So it's classed as Cambridgeshire. But yeah, from the train station in Huntingdon to London, it's about 50 minutes on a good train without delays or strikes. So,
Right. Yeah, you guys have a great rail system. You guys have a great rail. There's a lot
when
of
it works, yeah, when it works.
there's a lot of YouTubers, UK YouTubers out there that love train watching, and they post their videos up all the time. And I sit there. Sometimes I'll be working, and I'll catch a video, and I'm sitting there watching the trains. I'm watching the trains go. And I just got to say one thing about the UK trains. They are quiet. If you're walking on if you're thinking about walking on the train tracks in Great Britain, don't do it.
Nope.
See, here in the US, you could literally walk on a train. You could walk on a train station. I mean, on a train track, and you're going to hear the train coming. You're going to
Yeah.
hear, yeah, you're never going to be, you got to be a little bit quick as far as, how fast it's coming, because Amtrak's go faster. But uh, somewhere, the Amtrak's get there faster, but the regular trains, you can hear them coming from miles away. I mean, yeah, it always surprises me when I hear people have accidents at the rate here, because you can't help but hear the trains.
No,
But,
and they're
but
so big. They are so big.
so 50 minutes, that's a really good commute, though. I mean,
Oh
if
yeah.
if you get an audition or what have you, I mean, it's a really quick, jump on the train and down to London.
Yeah.
Um, wow. All right, so here we are, and I had a feeling about the military service when you mentioned Canada, and I'm thinking you went to Canada, then you went back to the UK. I said that sounds sort of military like. Um,
Well, yeah, I mean, we to be fair, we didn't go over there with the military. So he left the forces actually, and has since we've come back, he's rejoined. So yeah, he missed it.
okay, okay. Uh, uh, yeah, it's a little scary right now to be in forces right now. The way Europe is.
Yeah.
Um, is that even though you're a creative, but you're also a wife and a mother as well. Even though you're creative and you act and you enjoy making movies and whatnot. Uh, what's it like in Great Britain as far as that goes? Is it always in the back of your head a little bit gnawing that everything in the continent's a little bit in flux, with what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on here in the States? Is it a little hard to focus on sometimes on doing something more fun for you and the family, or do you think about where where Britain is at in the world, um, or does any of that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I never used to. I've always been one. To be fair, I think the one thing that my friends would say about me is I hate politics. I am not a massive fan of politics. I think it's one of the things that causes the most arguments. So I just try to steer clear of it as much as possible and like educate myself in what I need to know so that I can make decisions accordingly. But I didn't used to. I didn't used to think about it too much until I had children, and then every decision that I made and everything that happened affected the people that meant the most to me in the whole world. So I then had to kind of start paying more attention, and everything that's going on in the world at the moment. I mean, we're coming up for a general election on the 4th of July, which just might be our Independence Day too. So it's one of those things. I think that yeah, I try to educate myself as much as possible to be able to make what I feel is the right decision. But it's hard because I don't know. I feel like they're all as bad as each other, if I'm honest. I don't trust any of them. I kind of wish I did. I wish there was somebody that would say they would do something, they would actually stand up and do it. But I'm just not holding my breath.
Right, right, right. Um, yeah, it's got to be a little bit. I would think it'd be a little bit nerve wracking, and you wonder how much, overall in the bigger scheme of things, how much of what's happening in the UK, how much, how much of that is affecting filmmaking? Is it affecting the arts, the arts in general, music, or fairs or festivals or what have you? Uh, have you noticed any sort of change in people's demeanors? Are there less projects going on right now because everybody's still just holding their breath, or is it just normal? I mean, it's normal. It's slow. It's slow this time of the year, every year. Um, or do you think it is because of the climate, the political climate? Do you think it has affected the arts?
I think heavily, yes. I think our current government does not hold the arts in the highest regard. I think that COVID it was an awful thing to happen all over the world, and it had a huge impact on everyone, and it had a huge impact on, we lost so many good people, and it had a huge impact on our economy and the arts, and just everything in general. And I think coming out of that, the hope was that there would be some support there in place for kind of everything really. But the one thing that I hear, again, I try not to delve too deeply into things, because the news tends to be quite depressing, to be fair. But when you're hearing things like, oh, this funding's been pulled for this, or this funding's been pulled for that. And I mean, at the time, so up until Christmas last year, I was a secondary drama teacher. So I was teaching kids drama, and teaching them about practitioners, and getting them through their GCSEs, which and then into A level, and kind of sitting there and listening to this, this funding being pulled and that funding being pulled, and basically how the support for the arts within education as well had changed. It hurts my heart, because I sit there and I think, but without creative people, and without films and music and books, none of these things, without creative people, none of these things would exist. And these are the things that kept people going through the pandemic. These are the things, while we were all cooped up in our houses, we had films, we had music, we had books, we had things to keep us going. And I think what a sad world it would be without any of that. So yeah. I just don't understand why you would not want to fund something that gives people so much joy.
Right. I'm with you about that. I know that the UK, they give grants out to filmmakers, to help them complete their projects. And I've always admired that. The UK and also in Australia does that as well. If you make a movie, you can apply for funds and what have you. You show them what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then they okay, we'll give you 30,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds or whatever you applied for. I think that's a great idea, and I wish the hell we had that over here. Like there was a government agency that would, if you have a filmmaker, they're making legitimate art and they're really trying their best. This is our movie. This is what we're trying to do. It would be cool for that to happen over here, to encourage it, to foster it.
Yeah.
And knowing that when the government gives you the money, they're giving it to you in the hopes that you make a great movie, not necessarily that you're going to make the money back. Because a lot of movies, and it seems like the last couple of years, more and more investors are basically sitting there going like, okay, you're coming to us and you want money from us, you want us to invest in your project, but the problem is, how are we going to make the money back? How are you going to make it back? Because they're not in the habit of just throwing money out the window without reasonable expectations.
No, I think in this economy you can't afford to throw money out of the window, can you? But I do feel that it's necessary to get people inspired, to and give people the opportunity to create. There's so many people out there who can't get the funding, and over here I think a lot of so I've gotten to know a lot of people within kind of the indie movie circuit, which obviously funding films in the indie circuit, you do a lot of kind of crowdfunding. So there's a lot of Indiegogo and that kind of thing to fund your film, because it's not coming.
Does that happen a lot? Does crowdfunding, do you have crowdfunding in the UK? I mean, over here it seems to me more and more that's what filmmakers are doing. They'll announce an idea, they'll throw some concept art, and then they'll sit there and say, we're launching the Indiegogo.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah. There's so many. There's a lot of the films that I've, kind of I've looked at, and within that kind of circle. So I've looked at a lot of kind of indie horror films, because horror is my favorite genre. It always has been, and but there's a lot of films, asking for crowdfunding on things like Indiegogo, because they're just not they can't get it from anywhere else.
No.
You know, and as far as kind of grants and things go, I mean, there's definitely grants out there, but I feel, you know, I don't really kind of know enough about it to be able to go into it too deeply, because it's not something that I have that kind of knowledge base for. But I do know, as with anything, grants for anything, there's going to be a kind of really stringent kind of process to get through, and sometimes looking at it, you think, well, I've ticked all the boxes. I think I've ticked all the boxes, but in actual fact, they still go no. So it's tough. It's tough. I think making films, unless, and this was a conversation I was having with somebody the other day, actually, making films, unless you've got the money behind you or you've got, you know, a massive budget, can be quite hard.
You know, it would be. I think it would be so much better. It would be so much better because I've talked to other filmmakers in Holland and Belgium, and one of the things that's up there, and it always kills me. You know, it's like, okay, you got filmmakers in there, and they get them film made, and you sit there, okay, oh great, you're gonna take it to the big screen, but all of a sudden they go ahead and they sit there and say, well, nobody in my own country really even knows who I am, and it's like, they'll, as far as getting my movie on a screen, they're too busy showing the latest thing from Hollywood, and I just find that to be really not right. I mean, it's like, to me, it's like, like I would love to see, more screens dedicated to, in the UK anyway. I would love to see more screens dedicated to showing UK content. Like, if there's 10 screens at a cinema, I think at least 6 of them should be filled with English movies. 6
Yeah.
of them, they're running UK cinema, because that's how you build it, because you get people, you develop you develop your actors, you develop your character actors, you develop your directors. That's how you do it, by getting them on the screen in front of the public. Back in the 30s and 40s, Hollywood used to be a master of star making. They would find somebody, someone like a Humphrey Bogart. I'll use him for example. Someone like Humphrey Bogart, and then they would create vehicles for them, like starring roles for these actors, because they want them to be the big star. So they would sit there and say, they may not be the best person for the part, but they're the ones that the studio wants.
Yeah.
The more charismatic, the more the one, and then they would go ahead and star in these movies, and then that's what you would see. You see Humphrey Bogart here and Humphrey Bogart there. Before you know it, Humphrey Bogart's a big star, because that's what you see.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with like, here's the latest English drama. Here's the English period piece. Here's a Jane Austen movie. It's over and over and over. Before you know it, you take pride and you go like, man, we got some really good actors here in the UK.
Yeah.
So how come we're not seeing more of them?
We do have, so there's some really good actors, and I mean, not even just kind of, Hollywood, like sort of that kind of level, kind of sort of like Henry Cavill level type actors, but even down like indie films, and I was fortunate enough to go to Romford Film Festival a few weeks ago, which was absolutely fantastic, and it was one of the films that I worked on had been that was screening there, and it was in the micro budget category, because it was so it was a film called Dunes of Desolation, and it was I got a call from my friend Georgie, who she was like, right, we've got an idea for this film, but it's going to be a quick one, so I need you, are you available, first of all? Can you travel down to Canberra, and we're going to spend the day, and we're going to film a film in a day? And I was like, okay, I'm always up for a challenge. So like literally not the next day, but the following day, we got in the car, we traveled down, and we spent the whole day filming down at Canberra Sands, and the sun was hot. The sunburn by the end of the day was real. So the pain that you put yourself through for your art, but it was so nice to kind of be be surrounded by other actors who are there wanting, and directors and producers and photographers and all sorts of people who are there, and they're at that kind of stage of their career where they've been in the industry and they've made big budget movies, and then they've come back and started making smaller movies because they don't like everything that goes with the big budgets and the expectation, and they'd much rather keep it simple and create what they love as opposed to what somebody else tells them to create. Or you've got people like me who are kind of just starting out and wanting to kind of get their foot in the door and find roles and hopefully kind of grow as an actor. And it was a really, really nice kind of networking experience, and it was really nice to see the film in finished, but also it was really kind of strange to see myself up on a big screen, and it wasn't something that I thought was ever going to happen at this early point in my acting career, but it was quite humbling to be sat in a room full of other actors, some of whom have done amazing things, and to have them, it was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking, but it was also a really, really great experience. I'm not sure how many of my own films I'm going to go watch.
When you saw yourself on screen and with all your peers around, I mean, you said it was nerve-wracking, but did you feel like like I earned that? Like I belong up there?
Yes, I know, and because we worked really hard on that film, so it was really nice for it to get that moment of recognition, and for people to be like, oh, that was really good, we really enjoyed it, even if some of them were just saying it to be nice. It was nice in the moment, because you're always going to have people, like we were saying earlier, you're always going to have people who like something and other people who don't like it. So and I know I'm fully aware of the fact that not everything that I do is going to be amazing. I will put my heart and soul into it, and I do with everything else, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be stellar. So there's always going to be somebody.
Like you and I were talking off camera beforehand, it's like, to me, what I look for, as a film, someone who likes watching film, and I watch certain directors and actors and whatnot. What's really important to me, especially on the indie level, is the fact that when you see a director that has promise, making their first movie, you really want them to move forward with them. It's really exciting to meet an actress such as yourself who's just getting started, right? To me, I'd much rather talk to somebody like yourself, you, Derek, people who are on their way up, rather than someone who's on the big screen, like, hey, you want to go talk to, like, to me, and people will in the chat will understand this and they'll agree with this. If I had a chance to talk to you today versus talking with Tom Cruise next door, they will tell you, and I'm not blowing smoke here, I would rather sit here and talk to you rather than spend 30 minutes with Tom Cruise.
Well, I appreciate that. I do.
Because I mean, Tom Cruise has already had his moment, as far as I'm concerned. He's already established, he's already what he is. To me, it's more exciting to sit here and talk to someone such as yourself who's just starting to lift off. There's something a lot more fun watching an artist grow and take off. But you want them to grow forward, like the next movie that they do, you want them to see get better and better and better. And you and I were talking about a director who has not done that, has come out and made a bad movie, but everything else that they've done has never been improved. It's always taken a step backwards, and that's disheartening to me. I'm really just I just find it disheartening, because it's like you're not, part of a director and producers, part of their job is not only get a film on the screen, but then also to make you become a better actor. That's what a director is. They direct actors. They help actors, and it's like, it's really discouraging to see a director who doesn't really take the effort to do that. It's hard to support them. It's hard to sit
Mm.
there and sit there and say, yeah, you should go watch this movie because it's pretty good. It's low budget. It's gonna struggle a little bit in place, but stay with it because it has a lot of heart. And then the next time someone comes out with another movie, say, you know what, I like this movie better than the first one. But that's how it should be
Yeah,
because they
that is
right.
absolutely how it should be. And I think you're right. I think the role of a director is to to bring out the best in their actors and to, not necessarily, well, I think in some respect tell them exactly what it is that they expect from them, because I think as actors, we can take a character and we can kind of create them, and we can run with ideas that we have and try and really kind of understand them as people, and then we can kind of create what we feel would work best. But if that's not the vision that the director has, then it's kind of time wasted, so to speak. So it's definitely, I feel better, and I think I would want from a director, I would want, I would like, to be left with some kind of idea of being able to create this character myself, but I would definitely like some guidelines as to what it is that they really wanted, and then the rest is kind of left open to me as the actor to create. So but I feel, yeah, you want to see, it's the same with actors and it's the same with directors, you want to see them improve every film that they do. And I think if they continue to strive to always give their best and expect the best from everyone else that they're working with, then that surely has to happen.
I like to ask this question from most of the actors I talk to from the UK because I always ask this question because I'm really interested in the answer. And then I want to get back to how you got your start. Um, but here's a question for you, and feel free to answer this as freely as you can. Do you feel there's a bottleneck in the UK acting industry where just a certain amount of people that are always in everything, like, like as soon as a project's announced, it's the same old 10 people that are locked into the parts. And it seems like to me it's really prevalent in the UK, and it always to me it's like almost like a bottle stop, and it doesn't allow for any other actors to come up there and to, look how long it took Harry Cavill to make it.
Yeah, and I do feel like that, but I feel like that's kind of a problem everywhere, and I've noticed. So I've always really been into film, and I've wanted to get into acting since I was younger, and unfortunately for one reason or another it kind of just wasn't on the cards until recently. So there was a serious lack of support growing up as to where the arts were concerned. I grew up surrounded by a heavily scientific family, so it was always kind of it didn't fit, so for me, I've always kind of grown up and I've watched films, and I used to watch a lot of films with my grandparents, my mum's parents, and they were really heavily into film. And my nan actually got me into musicals. I remember watching Oklahoma with her the first time, and so I really loved that. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. And I've always really loved film. But what I've noticed whilst enjoying film is that it seems to come in waves. So when Hollywood, or just film in general, discovers some new amazing actor, I then feel like for the next year to 2 years, all we hear about is that person, and they're in everything. And I feel like you say, there's always a set number of the same actors that get roles in films and in TV, and it's always the same people. And then they'll switch it up, and it'll be a new person, and then it'll be that person for the next 2 or 3 years, and then they'll switch it up and get a new person. But yeah, I definitely feel like and it's one thing that's been discussed over here. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I've listened to a couple of podcasts where they're talking about how the majority of people who become successful actors over here come from money. You know, they've been to the right drama school, or they know the right people, and they get into it that way. And, you know, whatever way you get into it, if it's your passion and that's what you love, then great. You know, I'm totally here for that. I support that 110%. If you can, I'm a big believer in, if you can do what you love, do it. But I feel like as well, that kind of, there's not enough, there's so many actors out there that, as we said before when we were talking before the show, there's so many actors out there who aren't working, who really want to, and just because they haven't been to drama school, or they don't have, you know, they don't come from money or know the right people, it doesn't mean that they're not good.
Right. We've been having that. We've been having that over here. The nepo baby backlash has been going on here for about a year or so, and I personally don't buy that myself. I mean, talent is talent, you know, and it's like, you know, as long as they can pull their freight, I don't care. You know,
No.
I really don't. I mean, if your mom's Angelina Jolie, but you can if you can carry your water, I'm happy for you. I'm all for it. Uh, um,
Yeah.
at the same time, if you're not, then I don't want to see your face keep getting roles, you know, because you're not that good. And, you know, maybe, you know, sometimes that doesn't happen. Maybe you're not that dedicated. Maybe there's a whole bunch of issues why you're not a good actor. And that's okay. You could do something else. You can slide behind the camera, or you can become a writer or anything else. I mean, it's fine. Use your influence that way. But you know, I don't like that idea. I don't like idea of someone getting a role just because they're someone so's son. You know,
No, and if that's the case, if they're so and so's son, and you know they're not good, and they're, you know, somebody needs to, and I feel like that's something that needs to happen more, is that somebody needs to turn around and go, look, just because you're this person's kid doesn't make you good. You know, you could benefit from going and getting some training, the same as any other actor. You know, we all have to, you know, learn. Acting is a job just like anything else, where, you know, in order to kind of improve, you have to take steps to improve yourself and learn. And you know, there's, I think, even doesn't matter whose kid you are, or like where you come from, that if you're bad, you're bad, you know.
right. And see, this is a perfect segue to going back to when you first started, because you mentioned earlier in the show that you are a teacher. So you
Mm,
were teaching drama. And
yeah.
here you are, you're teaching the next generation of kids that are, you know, hopefully going to go forward, you know, becoming actors, you know, and or whatever they're, you know, whether they be stage. I mean, stage acting is critically important in the UK. A lot of actors love to do the stage, and then you have some of doing film or musical or whatever else. Um, did you know, like when you were teaching these kids, did they ever, you know, could you spot somebody that had had that extraordinary spark? And as a teaching, you know, acting coach or teaching coach, um you know, if someone walks up to you and said, you know, uh, 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 how you know, what are my chances of becoming a successful actor in the UK? I mean, do I have a chance at it? I mean, I know they're small kids and whatnot, but they still want to know.
Yeah.
You got kids like here, 8 or 9, 10 years old. I was watching a movie where they had an 8-year-old, and she was method. She was
Yeah.
method. Yeah,
There are
she.
some really, really talented kids out there, you know. There's just, I feel like some people have just got it, you know, and they just get it. Um, but yeah, when I was teaching, the reason for going into drama teaching is funny, because um I took my degree in performing arts because I did want to originally go to university and do a degree in acting, because I didn't, you know, want to go to drama school. I wanted to go to drama school when I was really like a lot younger, but that, again, like I said, wasn't on the cards. So when I got a bit older, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go do a degree in acting. And then I thought, no, because actually that limits me to kind of what I can do, and it's just acting. So I thought, and I mean, I consider myself to be a major nerd, and I'm totally okay with saying that. Like, I love a absolute raging nerd, and I love kind of lighting and sound and projection mapping and all that kind of thing. And and learning that at uni, doing my performing arts degree, I feel like gave me a much more kind of broad understanding of everything that's involved in creating performance, not just but film, but also, you know, actual stage performance, which really helped when I kind of went into and became a drama teacher, because it meant that I had a 10-minute crash course with a colleague of mine who taught me how to use one of the huge lighting boards and run all the lights and program it all in. And, you know, I was doing the lighting for, you know, the kids' final exams, and, you know, doing sound using the software that he'd showed me how to use. And, you know, I kind of picked that stuff up really quickly, and I really enjoy that side of things. So to be able to kind of use my skills but then also pass those on to the kids as well, because there's so many different elements within drama as a kind of GCSE or an A level at secondary school over here. You know, you have to be able to you know, choose the sounds that you want to use for your performance. You have to be able to, you know, figure out lighting cues and all that kind of thing, and to be able to kind of impart my knowledge of that onto them, and then somehow have that help them to create a better performance. I really enjoyed that side of things. And so I got into drama teaching because I would say it was for selfish. It wasn't really for selfish reasons. It was, I think, more to prove a point, and because I wanted to be there for them. So when I was at school, I didn't get the opportunity to do drama. It wasn't something, as I said, it wasn't something that I was allowed to do. I did extracurricular drama at school, so if we ever had a show on, you know, I'd kind of be involved in that, but there was never any, I didn't have any, it wasn't one of my subjects that I chose, because that wasn't, it just wasn't allowed. So I wanted to be there for those kids who really wanted to take drama, who really loved it and had a passion for it, for when it came to them choosing their options at GCSE and their parents were like, yeah, but it's drama. You know, for me to be able to sit there and go, yeah, well, you know, drama is a subject. You sit there and you go, it's just drama. But actually, drama as a subject is teaching your child to collaborate well with their peers. It's teaching them to step outside of their comfort zone. It's teaching them public speaking. It's teaching them critical thinking. It's teaching them all of these different skills that, let's face it, not a lot of the other subjects do teach them, as well as building that confidence and also getting them to work with a whole range of people that maybe they wouldn't normally work with. And then in turn, I feel like making them a better person. So that's why I got into drama teaching. And I miss the kids. I really do. And I mean, I only left just before Christmas to kind of pursue this full time. But I really miss them. And to have a kid come up to me, I had a kid come up to me and be like, I want to get into acting. And this was actually after they found out what I was doing, and they found out that I'd been involved in a couple of things last year while I was still teaching. And I was always, you know, very clear with my head. I was like, this is what I'm doing on the outside of this. You know, I want to be more involved in it. And it just came to a point where I had to make a decision. I had to choose teaching or acting, and for me, the choice, it was an obvious choice, because this is what I've always wanted to do. And I felt like it made me a better teacher doing both. And to have a kid turn around to me and say, I want to be an actor, what do you think my chances are? I was like, if you work hard and you are prepared to learn and grow, you have as much chance as anybody else. So
you know, sometimes you hear that, you know, like over here, we get that, you know, over here in the United States, anybody could be president. Well, we all know that's bullshit.
yeah.
That's just straight out what it is. It's, you know, like, you could be president someday. No, you can't. No, it's not how it works. You know,
No.
And same thing sometimes with acting. Sometimes it can be like, I want to become a great actor. I think you have a better chance of becoming a great actor than you can in becoming a great politician or what have you. But when you were teaching them, you're teaching the kids on how to, like all the fundamentals of acting, hitting their marks, knowing their lines, to be generous and with their scene partner or whatnot. Now, how much of that you tell us about your first time as a full-time actress. Tell us about the first time you had to go to your first audition, out of teaching, and now you became a working actress. How much was what you were teaching the kids? How much of that was different from the reality of it? From
Uh, um, I think it was firstly different because it was me doing it, and instead of preaching to the kids about this is what you need to do and this is how you need to do it, just go. It's not that hard, you know. Actually, it is that hard. So yeah, it's, and you know what? I never kind of diminished anything that they were doing. It was always, I knew that it was tough for some of them. Some of them, you know, they just took it in their stride and they did really well, and they knew, you know, they just had this knack for it. It just seemed to come naturally for them. Whereas others, you know, really, really struggled, but once they got there, it was good, you know. And the one thing with the kids that I was teaching at kind of GCSE and A level was none of them, every single one of them knew how important it was. And the ones that really, really wanted it, the ones that it really, really mattered to, made some amazing work. I was surrounded by so many talented kids, you know, but going to auditioning myself, learning lines is something that I've always found quite easy. But then the whole self-tape experience was interesting, because I'd always been on the recording end and never on the other end of it. So I'd always done the recording and never been the one in front of the camera. It was kind of strange, and it's nerve-wracking because you send off what you think is this perfect kind of final version of this character that you think that they want, and you just wait. And the worst thing is the waiting. And the one thing I found is on very few occasions do you get a message back if they're not interested. So if they're interested, they'll be like, hi, yeah, this was great, we'd really love to offer you the role. But actually, if they're not interested, you just don't hear anything.
Yeah, you know, I've always had a problem with that. Like, I know, like, for certain roles, you know, it's impossible. You know, like 10,000 people audition for Harry Potter, and it's like, yeah, good luck trying to tell, you know, send a message out to each one individually saying they
They
didn't get the
just
part.
don't. They just don't.
Yeah, I've always felt like, listen, I think here's what you can do. Look, you can't do everybody. I get that. But there's also a lot of times where there's you know, there's auditioning, you know, like, not every movie is just slam dunk the first round of auditions. You know, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 times. But I think when you come down to your final 4 or 5 actors, 4 or 5, you know, whatever, you know, like, you know, let's say out of 300, and you're down to the last 6. And I do feel that the casting director should reach out to those last ones who made it to the made of final cut, and let them know, and sit there
Yeah.
and say, thank you so much. You know, that the fact that you got to this far it speaks to your talent. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. It may not work this time out, but we have your name and picture, and you know, we'll see what goes down the line. I just find it really appalling that, you know, you work your ass off, you go through all the hoops, and then nothing. You don't hear anything, and then you're sitting there wondering and
Yeah.
wondering, you know. And it's like, you know, especially if it's a big project. I know a lot of people say, well, as soon as it's over with, I dust off my hands and walk out the door.
And
I
that's
know
what I've
that's what I
started.
know. I know that's what they say, but in actuality, you're taking that with you. You're sitting at home wondering, I wonder if I got it. I wonder if I got it. I wonder if I got it.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I've started doing that a lot more. So like I'll send off a self-tape and I'm like, hey, if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. If I don't get it, it wasn't meant to be, you know? And I am a big believer, don't get me wrong. Like I'm a very kind of level-headed person when when it comes to things like, you know, I'm very realistic. So for me, it's a case of, the way I see it is, I might not be right for that role, but out there is a role that only I am right for. You know, and so I've just got to find it, and I've just got to keep auditioning and keep auditioning. And I told myself going into this, when I started last January and I went into this and I decided that this is what I wanted to do and that I was going to forge forward until I got to a point where I could just do it. And I didn't have to do anything else. It was I decided that I was not going to be put off by the amount of no's that I got, because I knew that I was probably going to get, for every yes, I was going to hear 1,000 no's. Especially, you know, I mean, I'm 42. I've got 3 kids, and I'm not kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm your typical actress. I don't know. Like there's a lot of actresses that look very similar, and then there's kind of the rest of us that just don't seem to fit in any particular box. But I don't know what box I fit into.
You know what though? That's great though, because every character actor will tell you first and foremost they do not want to be put in the box.
Yeah,
I can put this person in a box. No, you can't. You can't. There's a
I
lot
don't.
of actors that are like that. You just
Yeah,
someone who I mentioned earlier, Paul Giamatti. You look at him and yeah, he leads some films, but he is at heart a character actor. But you can't put Giamatti in any sort of a box. Um, Actually, I mean, you look at Kate Winslet, her career, you look at her, and she is more of a character actor than she is a leading lady. She
she.
will do anything. She likes to do different things on different projects. She's not sitting there going like, I'm going to be the lead in this drama. I'm going to be leading this role rom-com. No, she takes interesting parts that you can't put her in, like the Reader. You look at
Yeah,
her in the Reader, and you go like, I would have never saw her do a role like that.
she
I just
is
wouldn't.
hugely like a massive inspiration. I absolutely adore her as an actress, and you know, for the fact that I remember watching an award acceptance speech that she did once, where she she said that her drama teacher or somebody had told her that she would never, you know, ever get really anywhere with her acting, because she was, wasn't good enough, or she was too big, or whatever it was. And as someone who is not kind of, slim, and who is, I've had 3 children, and my body isn't what it used to be, and it's really kind of refreshing to see somebody like her standing there and advocating for people of, just to be themselves, and to just, if it's truly their passion and if it's something that they love, to just forge forward with it and go for it. And I think in this industry, it does require people of kind of every shape and size and every look and every, I spent a long time feeling kind of really toying with the idea. So when it came to last January, when I mentioned I made the decision to really forge forward with it, it was actually my husband who said to me, he was like, look, just do it. Um, he said, you've talked and talked and talked around in circles about this for the 20 odd years we've known each other. He's like, this is what you've always wanted to do. He went, just do it. Find a way, make it work. He's like, and he sat there and he said, like, I know, you've had the kids and you're not kind of the most secure within. And I think this is really important for kids as well. And I said this to my students, like, I talk a good talk, I used to say I'd go into work to teach, and I put on the best 5 shows of my life, every single day. Every lesson I taught was a new show. I'd show up, I'd put on this face, and I'd do this show, and then I'd walk out of there like a nervous wreck. I am probably my extroverted self always makes plans for my introverted self that my introverted self hates my extroverted self for later. But I feel like acting is something that it's just part of who I am, and I love it so much that I just want to be able to, I don't want, like you say, to fit into a box. I want to be able to kind of try everything and do everything. And I spent a long time being really insecure with myself, because of, I wasn't your typical kind of shape for acting, if there is a typical shape for acting, or what society dictates is a typical shape for acting.
But character acting is just, that's the best.
Yeah.
If people, I want to say hi real quick to the chat. They're here. Our good friend Ken from Sledgehammer Horror is here. Welcome in, Ken, and our friend Ava is here. Ava, and hi, Ava, and Lady Valerie is here. My fellow Hallmark Mark, my fellow Hallmark pal, Val is here. And thank you guys all for coming in. I really do appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
We are talking with actress Victoria Chambers. You might just see her here. The other gentleman who was supposed to be here with us, Derek Barr, there was a family event and he could not make it here today, but he will be making it at a future time. So again, shout out to Derek, and our thoughts are with you, my buddy, my friend, my actually, I know exactly who was going through. Uh, uh, yeah, so um, just sending out some positive thoughts to you.
Yeah,
And our friend Steve is here from Desert Adventures in Arizona, and he will be here on Thursday. So how about that? That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be
nice.
a lot of fun. Yeah, yeah. I love character actors. I am more of a character actor fan than I am a leading person fan. I mean, you can go out there and say, "Well, here's a leading person," like a Miles Teller or something like that, I'm like, give me somebody, give me a character actor, give me someone who could play any role as a chameleon. Like there was
Yes.
an actor named Tobolowsky, and he wrote a book saying, "I know that face," and basically what it was it's just it's like he's seeing his face, but you don't really quite know the name. um and those are the hearts, and those are the heart and soul of any project. Good character actors are very hard to find, much because the leading parts can be developed. you know
Yeah.
Star making can happen. You can't make a character actor. You can't sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to make you into a character actor. No, you can't. It's easier for you to make a leading man or a woman than it is to be a character. A character actor already has the skill. You don't
Yeah.
have to teach them anything. Whereas maybe a leading man or leading lady needs that extra push. I mean, am I wrong in saying that? I mean, as a coach, I mean, don't you feel do you feel that too? Like it's like
I feel like when I was teaching, like I mentioned, there's always those kids that just have it. They just know, and they can play anything. Um, you could give them a role, as the leading role. You could give them a role as a smaller part, and somehow they'd still manage to make it their own and make it into this, completely amazing character who they just have it. They just know how to do it. So yeah, I think there's people who just have it, and then there's people who, like you say, are there to be leading roles, and they're what the studio wants, or and that's not to say that they're not talented at all, no, but I feel like there's some people who are they're just good. They are just really good, and it almost is like they don't really even have to try. They're just good.
right. Um, So what was the first project that you when it was the first project that you auditioned for, or you worked, or you booked a role for? What was the first role that you booked after you stepped out from teaching? And tell us a little bit about the movie, and what did you have to do to secure your part?
So it was kind of um, a slow progress process last year. So January, when I decided that I was going to kind of like throw myself into it, I I thought, okay, I have no idea how to do this. I have no idea how to navigate this industry. Like, I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing or what I need or where I'm going. So I reached out to a company called Actors Warehouse. And it's run by Pierce and Georgie, and they are honestly two of the nicest people I've ever met. And we worked together for a little while, and they kind of filled me in on Georgie's specifically filled me in kind of on how she'd got her start in the industry and where she was at. And it was a very massive, it was a big learning curve last year, learning kind of what I needed, about show reels and headshots and all sorts of things that were necessary for this industry. as well as kind of how to network and how to get myself out there and advertise myself, and that I'm the business, so I'm what I'm selling, and networking I found has been the biggest thing. So the first thing I did last year was in February, I went and worked as a supporting artist on a film called The Art of Abuse. It's Silent Studios production, and I traveled down to Southend, and I did a day of supporting artist work on that, and that was really, I was terrified because it was the first time I'd ever been on a professional set. And I said to my husband before I left, I went, this is it. This is the thing that's going to make it or break the decision for me. This is where I find out if I can really do this for the rest of my life, or if everything that I've wanted since I was probably like 12 years old is all just going to blow up in my face. And it's going to be like, nope, this is not for me. So I went down and I spent the day there, and everybody was so lovely. And, we filmed a couple of scenes, and when I got home, on the way home, I was driving, and I was absolutely buzzing. I'd had such a good day, and I'd got to know everyone, and everybody was so great, and I'd learned so much as well. And I just thought, I genuinely could do this every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then there was a little bit where I didn't do anything, and then there was a casting call that went out for a show called Ren the Girl with the Mark, and it was just for supporting artists again. But I thought, I was looking for other things, and I thought I kind of want to dip my toes in the water with like loads of different genres. And so I went down and I did some supporting artist work on that in, I think it was maybe May, June time. Oh no, must have been earlier than that, because my daughter was actually in the process of taking her GCSE exams at the time. So, and she came with me to do some supporting artist work as well. And it was really great because it's very, it was very different to the first experience that I had. We got all costumed up, and it was kind of, what would I cross it with? I would say it's like a mythical Lord of the Rings kind of, yeah, it's really hard, but it's such a good show. And so this was in St. Ives, like literally 10 minutes down the road from me. They were filming a few of the scenes, and I got to play a couple of characters. So I got to play a market denizen. So I had a stall with loads of potions and things. And then they wanted people to play the Kanath soldiers. So I got to dress up as a Kanath soldier with like all this chainmail and everything, and this great big helmet. And it was great. Like, so even though I didn't have a speaking part, it was an opportunity for me to kind of experience a different genre and so it wasn't a film this time, it was a show, and to get to work with more people and get to know more people, and again, it was a learning process, seeing how filming happened, and the work and everything that went into creating it. So that was the second thing, and that's actually on YouTube. The second season's just come out on YouTube this year. And it's such a great show, and everybody is so lovely to work with, and I'm really excited for season 3. So they've announced they're going to do season 3, and they're looking at filming a couple of the episodes in the next couple of months. They're currently building the set on weekends, and it's really exciting. But after that, I got the role I mentioned to you earlier, where we went down to Canberra to film in a day, and that was the one that was just screened at Romford Film Festival, which was really great. As far as auditions go, my first actual audition was for Dear Sister Margaret. So I have been cast as Mother Superior in a film that is currently in pre-production called Dear Sister Margaret. And my first kind of self-tape that I sent off, that was a proper audition, was for this. And I sent 2 off because I auditioned for 2 characters, and I was just like, to be fair, like I really like both of these characters. I'm going to audition for both of them. They both, were quite strong, independent female characters, but they were both so very, very different. So I thought I'm going to audition for both. And I waited after I'd sent it, and I was like, I'm probably not going to get either of these, but we'll wait. And then when they came back and offered me the role of Mother Superior, I was like, I actually sat there and I thought, I've never been a nun.
Uh, no. Did you ever see yourself playing a character like a nun? I mean,
No.
were some of these characters like playing in medieval armor? I mean, did you ever see yourself actually putting on armor and a helmet?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
mean, did you?
Oh, I love it. And do you know what? So Lord of the Rings is probably my favorite thing in the entire world, and it has been since I was really, really young. And my dad used to read it to us, me and my brother, at bedtime. And it was like a scramble to see who could get up the stairs first and get into bed first, so that we could be there, and we we're just waiting for him to read the next few pages of this book. And it's been my favorite thing in the whole world since I was really, really young, like I said. So for me, and I love anything Viking, anything period related, anything medieval, anything that kind of thing. And on my list of things to do is I've done some stage combat training, but on my list of things to do is to definitely expand on that. I would love to learn how to use swords, and I've done archery. I'm actually blowing my own trumpet, but I'm pretty good. So I've done that, and I've done some basic stage combat training. So I would love to. I think on my list of things to do is to learn some weapons, do some weapons training. Maybe guns eventually, but I think I'm more interested in swords and that kind of thing. But I love that kind of that collection of I would love to do something like Vikings, or I would love to do something like medieval. I love stuff like that. So, but to see myself as a nun, absolutely not. I never saw myself playing a nun. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that would be. I definitely, definitely something you did you feel like it was outside your comfort level? I mean, how did you research the part? Did you go down to a church? Did you talk to nuns? I mean, what do you do now? Now now that you're on the other side, what do you do to prepare yourself to play the character that you're acting out, you're trying out for, or auditioning for? What do you do for it? What do you research? Do you go down to the library? Do you go talk to the person in the trade face to face? How does Victoria get ready for her role?
I try and do as much research around it as possible. So especially if it's something that's scripted, that's been done before. So at uni, I played Martha in That Face by Polly Stenham, and I knew that was something that had been done multiple times before. So I kind of I used every resource at my disposal to kind of research and see how other people had done it. First of all, I also kind of like to read the script multiple times, and kind of and I make a lot of notes. I'm a real note maker. So I like to try and kind of understand the character, and to one of the things I was teaching my kids when I was teaching drama is that you should try and find kind of a commonality with the character if you can. So if they're feeling a certain feeling, you should maybe think, okay, have I ever felt that before? When did I feel that? And then kind of go back to that, and almost kind of try and get back in touch with that feeling, so that you can then use that. And I like to try and do that as much as possible. I like to try and kind of get as much information as I can. And ultimately, what I don't want to do is I don't want to have that necessarily overshadow what the character becomes, because ultimately at the end of the day, the character is it needs to be individual to me. But again, it needs to be believable. So there are certain aspects of being a nun which are non-negotiables, but also as well, I feel that it's more important to be in touch with the character, and the role of Mother Superior that I'm going to be playing in Dear Sister Margaret. She's really strong, really independent woman who, she's got a good heart. She likes to help people, but ultimately at the same time, she's a real stickler for how things are done. As I imagine any kind of Mother Superior would be. Mother Superior is the one who's in charge of the nunnery and in charge of the nuns, and dishes out the rules. So I would imagine she'd be a fairly strong character. So yeah, a lot of research.
I'll tell you one thing. When it comes down to playing nuns, the British and the Irish, they have that locked down. I mean, your nuns are so much more believable than whenever an American actress does a nun. I mean, it's like, yeah, but when you see a Mother Superior over in a UK production or an Irish production, if you doubt that, I highly recommend going and watch The Devil's Doorway. If you know what, or Consecration. That's how Mother Superior is played. A lot of times over here in the States, they just don't have that same punch. They're just, I don't know, they just don't really seem to have the same gravitas as when you see a Mother Superior over in England or Ireland.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? I think, yeah, it's so strange that sometimes things are just, I don't know, they just maybe fit better, or they're just done better by certain. It's weird to see sometimes, but I'm sure that this. I mean, I imagine, and it's probably like super stereotypical, but I can't ever imagine a British person pulling off a cowboy properly. Oh. I can't. Like, I mean, there's probably actors that could do it, but
Alan Rickman gave it a good run though, and Quigley Down Under, he did play interesting cowboy.
But Alan Rickman, in my opinion, could have done anything. So.
Yeah. Now you mentioned, and this makes everybody here in this chat super happy. By the way, you said your favorite genre is horror.
Yes.
Yes. So, has that always been? Have you always been a fan of horror? And have you and talk to us about your first movie that you've done that has elements of horror in it.
Oh God, so I'm still traumatized by this. I'm 42 years old, and I've been hanging on to this now for 30 years. It's terrifying. So my first introduction to horror was when I was 12. And I had gone to a friend's 13th birthday party, and their mum had, when we still had Blockbuster Video and things like that around, she had gone and she had got two films from Blockbuster for us to watch.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, it was so much worse. So she got Bingo, which was this film about this really cute little dog, and and it was great. And then she got It. The original with Tim Curry.
Right.
I think what she'd done is she'd seen this clown on the front of the video box, and she'd been like, "Oh yeah, it's great. It'll be fine for them." So we've sat there. Oh my God. We're sat there watching this film, and it was a room full of, I think, 7 or 8 girls, and I just remember getting to the point where they're down in the sewers, and he turns into this spider. And It was at that point that I ran out of the room screaming, and I phoned my mom, and I was like, "You need to come get me." And it was meant to be a sleepover. So I ended up going home, and I was so traumatized by this entire experience. I then spent nights for months, dragging my single mattress into my mum's room to the foot of my mum's bed after she was asleep, because then she couldn't tell me to leave, and sleeping on the floor at the foot of my mum's bed just because I was so terrified to sleep in the room on my own. I checked every plug hole. I avoided drains. I was so traumatized by this film. And that was my first introduction to horror. And it kind of snowballed from there. So I was like, because I thought, okay, well, I've been so terrified by this, surely there's not anything else out there that is going to scare me any more than that. That was it. I was so traumatized by it that was it. I started watching, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and just really embracing kind of all the classics, and then going and kind of stumbling more into kind of more modern horror films, and then it snowballed, and I loved it so much that it just didn't stop. So yeah, and I really, really do, and I don't think there's ever been anything that has really kind of scared me quite that much. I'm still looking for that next thing that like scares my pants off.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
I'll make a suggestion for you.
Okay.
There's a movie that came out this year, and it's called The Coffee Table. And I challenge you to watch that and come back and tell me what you think about it.
Okay.
It's called The
Okay.
Coffee Table, and it is out there streaming. I will love to hear your input when you watch it. Come
Okay.
back to me and sit there and say I watched it, and then tell me what you thought about it.
Honest
Uh,
thoughts on what I thought. Okay.
oh yeah,
Okay.
such an innocent title to The Coffee Table. I mean, it could be, what could be scary about that?
Well, I mean, I've seen some scary stuff pre-coffee. Usually me at like 6 a.m. I'm just like, oh no, I've lost you.
There we go.
Oh, you're back.
Uh,
I don't know what happened
uh,
then.
hold on. I gotta tell Ava, you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to watch it. Please don't. I cherish our friendship so much. If you watch that movie, you will disown me. The captain will come knock on my door.
Is it is it scary or is it bad?
It's scary. Oh,
It's
it's scary.
scary.
It's
Okay.
yeah. Oh no. I told my sister, and my sister says, she goes, I see you see, like I'm going like, yeah, I'm talking about it, and I did a review for it, and she goes, I'm gonna check it out. And I'm like, well, before you do that, let me remind you that I did warn you about it. And then she came back a couple of days later, and and she goes, oh my God, that was the most brutal film I've ever seen. What were you thinking? I'm going like, I tried telling you.
You
Uh,
were warned.
the thing is, though, it's also the best film of the year. You won't see a better movie, but you won't be in a hurry to watch it again. But it is the best movie.
Okay.
It is the best movie you'll see this year. I guarantee it. I guarantee
I'm
it
gonna
to
have to have a
anybody.
look now.
I guarantee that to anybody in the chat that The Coffee Table will be your number one movie. If you're a horror fan, definitely. If you're not a horror fan, maybe not. But
Maybe give it a wide berth.
you'll appreciate it. Uh,
Yeah.
no,
Good.
I
Okay.
totally get that, Steve. I totally get that. A lot of people use horror as a way to escape the real world. I get it though. The real world is very scary, definitely.
I love
I
that. Who is it?
Now, did you get a chance to see the remake of it, the new one?
Yeah. I watched I think, have we watched both of them? I don't remember watching the first one. No, we did. We watched the second one as well. I think, I'm not sure. I don't want to butcher his name. Is it Bill Skarsgård? Is that how you say his name? Yeah. I think he's so incredibly talented. I just think that entire family is just incredibly talented. But I think it was good, but I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think anyone is ever going to beat the original for me. Probably because it was the thing that terrified me the most. I just don't think you can. It's very rare that I've found something that beats the original. And speaking of originals, my favorite film of all time is The Crow. And
Oh, yeah.
I recently went to the cinema to watch. I never got to go and see it the first time round in the cinema because I was 12 when it came out. So I never got to go and see it. So I went to the cinema last week, actually, for the 30th anniversary of it, and watched it on the big screen for the first time. And I took my 17-year-old daughter and I took my 12-year-old daughter to see it because they both, my 17-year-old had watched it already, but I will, however, have to say I'm going to take a hard pass on watching the remake.
Right.
I just,
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people have said that. They said they're not interested in the new one at all. Yeah. I don't think it's a good. I didn't think it was a good idea either. I think they could have did the Crow, but they could have did it with some new people and in new scenarios. So they have him come back and play Eric Draven. Yeah, a lot of people really resent that, and they're not happy about that. It's sort of like
yeah,
Roadhouse, it's just like Roadhouse.
yep,
Roadhouse came out, and yeah, people came out and saw it. But I haven't heard really anybody, talk. They'll say they've watched it, but I haven't seen anybody just sit there and talk about the movie over and over and over, saying like it was so good. I haven't seen anybody. They watched it, they saw it, they're going like, then they
yeah,
move on. But there's
yeah.
nothing there to grab them to sit there and say, well, like the coffee table, I will talk about that movie until you see it, because that is
I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna find it tonight, and I'm gonna watch it, and then I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow, and I'm gonna be like, oh my god.
yeah, that's what I'm afraid. I'm afraid you will come back and hit me up.
Oh
Hit me
my
outside
god.
of the I'm gonna, thank God there's water between you and me, because I'd be coming over right now and kicking your butt. Um, now, are there some roles that you won't play? I always like asking that question too. Is there a limitation
Um,
to what will you not play?
um, I don't know. I I like to be kind of open to everything at this point. I will say I'm not a full nudity person. That is something that's non-negotiable for me. I will not. That's definitely a non-negotiable. I have kids and I've got students of mine that I used to teach that, follow me on my social media platforms. And yeah, there's stuff that people don't need to see. I'm a 42-year-old mum of three. There's stuff that they
Oh,
don't need to see that.
I mean, what though? But especially down these days, I mean, there's a lot of women now that are in their 40s and 50s who, hell, Andy McDowell did her first nude scene when she was 61.
But Andy McDowell.
And you know what? She looked like she's 61. She looked her age. It was age appropriate. It fit the story. It hit the narrative, and she looked. There was no enhancement, no de-aging, no nothing. She looked like a lady who her age, and she looked
And
beautiful.
do you know
And she
what?
looked,
I think if you have got the guts to do that, good for you. But
yeah.
I don't.
No, I get it. I just, the stigma of that, like, like, who was it? Well, hell, look at Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren's done nudity all the way up into her 60s. And done it well. There's women 30 years younger than Helen Mirren that will sit there and go like, holy shit, I wish I had a body like that. But I get it. I get it. Like, not nudity. I mean, you're right. I mean, you have a family and you have kids and everything else. Not for everybody, and I totally get that. But of course, it's funny too, though, is when they turn around and say, "Okay, here's what we want you to do. We want you to kill the leprechaun." Oh, I could do that. Can I decapitate him? Oh, by all means, please do
With a
so.
coffee table. With a coffee table.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Uh, so yeah, I get that. But as far as playing like a mass murderess, or like a crazy rogue person, or a serial killer, are all those roles that you look forward to challenging you? I mean, like, yeah, I could play that. I could play the mom that's gone crazy, no problem. I mean, are
Yeah.
those something? Yeah.
I think with this, the reason I'm so kind of open to it would be just because I feel like with acting, like we mentioned earlier, it's always about kind of improving and getting better with every film that you do. And I think if you don't push yourself out of your comfort zone and you don't take on challenges, that is something that maybe isn't going to be easy to do, and that you really have to push yourself. I feel like you're never going to improve if you just do the same thing over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
100%, I am open to anything. And you know, maybe there might be some, I sit here and I say that, but there might be something that, you know, drops into my mailbox or something that I find and I'm like, actually, no, I will not do that.
Right.
But I don't, until I get there, until I get to that point where I go, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I think I'm going to be pretty open to things. Like I said, I would love to do more kind of medieval fantasy, that kind of thing. Like, you know, the fact that they're about to release Finding. I mean, Andy Serkis, can I just say, is an absolute legend. If I could have 5 minutes with that man to pick his brains about everything that he knows and just like absorb it all like a sponge, I would pay a fortune. I would sell a kidney for that. But yeah, knowing that they're doing that, like, I would love. You know what, even if they killed me off in the first 5 minutes, I would just love to work on something like that. But yeah, I'm excited. So and I've got a project coming up called Rapunzel's Revenge, actually, with it's got a really, really good cast. And I'm playing a character called Valda, who I can't kind of say too much, but she's badass. And she is kind of a little bit magic too. So I'm really excited. And you know, it's currently, we're filming the Essence trailer for it on the 26th of this month. And I'm super excited. It's got a really great cast, like I said. We've got Georgie Harrop King, who's going to be playing Rapunzel. We've got Amber Doig-Thorne, who is playing Morrigan. And there's just such a really, really good cast of people who are, you know, that are all going to be great to work with. And I honestly, I can't wait to get on with this. It's right up my street.
It sounds absolutely fantastic. Mike has a question for us. And feel free to drop. If you have any questions for our guests, feel free to start dropping them now. If you just drop them in the chat, we'll answer them as they come through.
100% agree. The Crow is great. It's the best. And I love that so I don't know, like, names. I'm just going to go on like screen names. So did you Z or Z that? Is Tim Curry's Pennywise terrified me as a kid? Yeah. Honestly, I'm still traumatized like 30 years on. It's crazy. So let's have a look. Which facial expression or emotion is the hardest to convey in a movie? I find doing, I don't know, I think for me, being like sadness, because everybody automatically assumes that when you're sad you got to cry. But that's not true. You know, I don't immediately when I'm sad burst into tears, you know, but I feel being sad is probably really hard, because, you know, everybody gets happy. You know, you can smile and you can laugh and you can be happy, and angry is pretty easy too. But as far as sadness goes, I feel, you know, you don't have to be bawling your eyes out to be sad.
No.
So,
It is hitting our time, as a matter of fact. I want to thank you for coming and hanging out. You got to come back for sure. You definitely
I would love to. I would love to. This has been honestly so much fun, and it's been so nice talking to you. And to be fair, I was a little nervous because I've not kind of done anything like this before, and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to make a total ass out of myself.
No, this is something else. You and I were talking earlier about catching the artists when they first take off, and part of that joy of me doing this, when I do talk to an actor or an actress that is just taking off, or a director is doing their first movie, a lot of times I get the very first press. I'm the first press that you're gonna get, and I really feel like it's an underrated tool that isn't taught enough. Like I will talk to acting coaches. I'll sit there and say, when you get an actor, when you feel like they're ready, send them my way, and I'll get them to do I'll do press with them. I'll get them on the show here, and we'll do 8 questions with, because it's something that they're going to have to learn how to do as well. And I don't really feel like that part of their job is really taught that well. And a lot of times, performers will come out there and they have a hard time dealing with the press because they haven't never had any training or advice, and so they get thrown out there. And a lot of times, or it's the same old 5 questions. They'll get into a new movie and they'll get asked 5 questions. What was it like working with Tom Cruise? Were you nervous working with Tom Cruise? What did Tom Cruise say to you? And doesn't do anything for the actor or actress, to advance their craft, to advance their. This is how I approach to play my character. This is how I got ready for it. This is the research that I did. This is how it affected me. When I playing the character after it was over with, it affected me a certain way. It's important to learn how to do press.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
I
So,
agree. And I think that, it's something that definitely needs, the questions like, what was it like working with Tom Cruise, and how did you feel about working with Tom? That it's great asking those questions, but at the same time, when you've had 10 actresses work with Tom Cruise and they've all given the same answer, it's like, maybe try asking, how did you get into acting, or why did you want to do this, or what made you take this role, what was intriguing about this part,
right.
because you're not asking questions about them, you're asking questions about Tom Cruise, which is great if that's what you want to know about. But um
That's why actor is important. That an actor can go ahead and carry an interview, and when someone does sit down with them and sit there and say, "So, what was it like playing a mother superior?" Well, this is how I approach it. This is what I got out of it, and this is what I thought it looked like on camera. That's awesome. That's an awesome answer. Because then we get to know a little bit about you, how you prepare for the role, a little bit about how you involved yourself into it, immerse yourself into it. And a lot of times people don't love, there's press is just overlooked. So I'm always really happy to get people's first interview. I totally am. I'm tickled to do it. I think it's a lot of fun. And like I said,
well
I much rather talk to you than Tom Cruise.
Well, I
Um,
love that. I'd much rather talk to you than Tom Cruise for sure. So, but but yeah, I think it's been great. I've had so much fun, and it's been so lovely. Kind of, just getting to. I'm an open book. I've always been the same. I'm probably honest to a fault if I'm being brutally honest, and it's probably going to get me in trouble. But yeah, people can ask me whatever they like, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. I can be tactful, but yeah, I mean, honesty is the best policy, right?
yes, I agree. And thank you so much, Steve and Ava. I appreciate that so much. Real quick before we get out of here, I will break down the schedule a little bit because we are not done today. This is only the first show because we are back tonight at our regular time at 8 o'clock, and we'll be talking with actor and activist Dar Dixon tonight at 8 o'clock. I saw Dar in a movie called Dying to Sleep, and I've been wanting to talk to him ever since. He will be here at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we will be having the band Camp Crush. Jen Deal and Chris Spicer will be here with us. There will be music played, by the way. There will be music played tomorrow night for Camp Crush. And then on the 13th, the man sitting inside our chat, Desert Adventures in Arizona, he will be here on Thursday at 8 o'clock. And we are going to be cutting it up about all things RVing, droning, Arizona, dodging rattlesnakes, all sorts of good stuff. And he will be here on Thursday at 8 o'clock. So good shows coming up. Hopefully you guys will make it. And we will look forward to tonight at 8 o'clock. And that will be it. Stay right where you're at, Victoria. And to the chat, I'm going to say thank you so much for your support. I wouldn't be here without it. And hopefully we'll see you later on tonight at 8 o'clock for Dar Dixon. Have a
Thanks,
great
guys.
afternoon. Peace.